1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am your host, Precious D, and we have yet again another special role-playing episode. Now, never fear, friends. This is not becoming a gaming show, but there just happen to be a lot of Kaiju games going on right now. A lot of people we want to talk to, but we will be back at our regular time next week, and Honeybee will be here to talk about our next movie, which is Reign of Fire. So today I have with me Ed Jowett from Shades of Vengeance Games, and they have a game up on Kickstarter right now called Era Kaiju. Welcome to the show, Ed.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to be here, and entirely unexpected for me. I'm honoured that you'd reach out and ask if I'd like to come along.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're glad to have you. So this is the latest in a series of Era D10 games, and it's a Kaiju-based game where you play a Kaiju. Some of our Kaiju games, you're fighting against them. Some of them, you become one. This is one where you are a Kaiju. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Era D10 system?
Absolutely. So the Era D10 system was created about 12 years ago. And originally, I never really thought to myself, oh, I want to make loads and loads of role-playing games. I wanted to make one. I wanted to make a science fiction role-playing game. And I did. However, after doing so, I sort of thought, well, there's a lot more I can do. And I decided to continue making games for as long as I had ideas. And I'm now, I think, possibly in the situation where even if I live to be 100, I won't actually finish all of the ideas that I've got, let alone the new ones that come along.
Sure. Fair enough. Never enough time for games.
Never enough time. Know. You just do the best you can with what you've got.
Yeah. It's obviously a D10-based system. It's a dice pool, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. It is somewhat similar to the old World of Darkness version of the rules. Mm-hmm. However, while I am a big fan of that rule set, there are some things which I think that rule set does less well. And I think too often people want to do those things. Combat, for example, is something that I think is very weak in that system. So what I decided to do when I made the rule set is take the best parts of that rule set and the best things about it that work mechanically and mathematically, and then build up my own rule set using sort of the basis, but adapting things fairly significantly in some places so that it would be my way of doing things, my optimization, I guess, the one I would like to play.
Okay. And so when you're rolling your dice pool, what constitutes a success?
So that varies based on the difficulty of the action. I suppose I'd say the standard is probably 7, mm-hmm. But for a harder action, it can go up to 10, and for an easier action, it can go down to sort of 2.
And do you ever need to get more than one success?
Yeah, absolutely. The more successes that you get, the better the outcome. So let's say you're rolling 7 dice, and you roll 3 successes. Okay, that's quite good. You'll get a moderately good outcome. Let's say you roll 5 successes, you'll get a better outcome from that. 7 is known as an outstanding success. You know, the more successes you get, the better your outcome, effectively.
Right. So both the target number and the number of successes needed can vary.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say the number of successes needed varies per se. I would more say that the number of successes, even one success is okay, it's good, but the more successes you get, the just the better result that you get as a result.
Okay.
So I don't see that as varying so much as you look at the result
Okay.
and
All right.
you're thinking about what the outcome is that extremely beneficial for a large number.
I see. Yeah, some dice pools you need a certain number of successes. Some just want any success is fine. So I understand. And the pool is based on what, your skills, your stats, both of those things.
Your attributes and your skills. So at least, actually, I'm gonna say no. That is true in Era D10. And if anyone is interested in Era D10, please go and look up the Era D10 Fundamentals booklet. It's totally free. Anyone who wants to look at it can look at it. However, I'm going to answer for Era Kaiju because Era Kaiju works on a slightly adapted version of the rule set. The reason being, I don't really see Godzilla picking that many locks. It might just be me, but
Right.
I've not really seen that happen terribly often. So I changed the way in which it works, and there are only attributes in Era Kaiju. You have 6
Okay.
attributes, and you will roll any 2 of those 6. It might be double might, or it might be might and your Kaiju power, for example. But you roll any 2 of those attributes for any roll. That will define what your number of dice is, and you begin with 5 in one, 4 in another, 3 in another, and the rest are at 2. So if you are not likely to roll fewer than 4 dice. There are a few occasions that could cause that. I'm sorry, but most likely you'll be rolling somewhere between 4 and I guess 9 dice as a level 1 Kaiju.
Okay. I tried downloading the fundamentals package earlier, but it kept telling me an invalid download link. So I don't know what's going on with that.
That's annoying. I'm very sorry. What I'll have to go do is go fix that. After we're done talking, I'll go fix that. I don't quite know what's wrong.
Yeah, I wanted to look it over before we started, but
having a tantrum.
Technology. So,
yeah.
what made you want to do a kaiju game specifically?
So I'm only a relatively recent, I guess, addition to the world of kaiju. I never really knew much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen the 90s Godzilla movie, the Hollywood one, on TV when I was growing up, kind of thing. You know, I guess I would have been early teenager kind of time, and I watched the new legendary Godzilla movie on the plane. You know, sort of on a plane as something to watch, and I thought, oh, this isn't bad. This is okay. And I got hold of King of Monsters and watched that. And yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, this is all right. And I ended up, I don't remember what the circumstances that caused it were, but I ended up having a chat with a friend of mine called Lucas. And he said, oh, Ed, you have no idea how crazy kaiju movies can get. And I said, oh? So he and 2 other friends and myself, we had a kaiju movie night. And we watched Final Wars, and we watched Godzilla vs. Kong, which I actually haven't seen yet. And that sort of got me, when these 3 friends are around me, I met all of them through making role-playing games. So they wouldn't be friends with me if I hadn't made role-playing games in the first place. And we were chatting about, oh, you'd never... So, someone said, I think I remember who it was, but I'm not going to name drop him because he'd feel bad. I think he said, oh, you'd never be able to put kaiju on a tabletop. I just thought to myself, how would I do it? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was actually quite a fun idea that is a little different to... Once you've made a certain number of games, you always are thinking, right, am I really adding something, or am I just copying what I already did? Am I bringing something new to life? Or am I just going, here's another way of making the same thing again? Well, that's a bit pointless, it might be argued. So I thought to myself, no, you know what? I haven't done anything quite like this. The nearest is Era the Empowered, which is my superhero game, but it's not really superheroes, is it? Kaiju are superpowered, but they've got different challenges and thoughts to a human superhero.
Sure.
Ironically, actually, the first kaiju to come to life through the Era D10 rule set was in Era the Empowered. There was a person who could turn into a kaiju, and that was his power. So, ironically, I had done a little bit of that, but I thought, look, there are some mechanics I would want to put in being a kaiju, like how humanity reacts to you and so on, that don't really exist yet. I want to do something a little bit different, a little bit unusual, I guess. And that's where I started sort of putting together era kaiju and the idea of beta kaiju rather than alpha kaiju, and the idea of humanity and how they behave and how confidence works, particularly the idea of healing. I think all of these are very interesting and different ways of approaching a game. And then I picked up some things that I already have. I already have the confidence mechanic in Era Liars, but I treat it very differently in Era Kaiju. It's the same concept, really, but it's treated quite differently. I came up with the ideas around how you have powers and execute those powers. I thought about weapons and what you're using as a kaiju if you're using a weapon. I thought about how stories might look when you're playing as a kaiju or a group of kaiju was the point, and ultimately you can ask me a lot of questions about why beta kaiju exists and why you play as beta kaiju, and ultimately the reason is that, in my opinion, it is better game design to scale down the player than scale up the enemy. If you imagine everyone was Godzilla and had 4 or 5 kaiju powers, the enemy just has to be so ridiculous to fight 4 or 5 of you that you're not having fun anymore at that point. If you're a little weaker and you're really working hard to defeat a powerful enemy, I think you're having a lot more fun.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds good. That sounds good. Now, so you've just recently come into kaiju fandom. That's interesting, but you liked it enough you wanted to make a game about it.
Absolutely, and I should say, I went away and studied a few other movies after Final Wars.
But do you have a favorite kaiju?
I am really partial to King Ghidorah. Now you could argue that's because when I'm allowed on the player side of a role-playing game, I can be a bit of a power gamer sometimes. But the idea of this alien creature that landed on Earth, and it's speaking as a writer, one of the funny things about a lot of characters is they end up being the same character. Mewtwo and King Ghidorah are really the same character in essence. There are many, many others, but King Ghidorah landed on Earth. At least obviously there are different continuities. Let's take the legendary one as an example. It landed on Earth. It fought with various alphas and then got defeated and was frozen in ice, only to come back and then take over again. And it never gave up on that possibility, and it fights and fights and fights. So I do like King Ghidorah for the tenacity, I suppose. It's also the one that comes out when you know it's going to be. I mean, again, with any narrative thing, Godzilla's fighting King Ghidorah, you know that Godzilla's going to win. It's not really a question. However, you know that he comes out at the climax at that moment where the big fight's about to happen. That's always exciting.
And did you find that you had a particular film that was your favorite?
I think it's hard for me to say anything other than Final Wars for this, because it was such a revelation to me. I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely crazy as a movie. And it revels in that insanity. And while you can watch the original Godzilla or Godzilla -1 or many of the other more serious ones where Godzilla it's symbolic. Me personally, I think kaiju movies are better when they're less serious. That's my personal opinion. I have no issue with someone who likes the more serious movies at all, but I really do like something that's a little bit insane, because the whole idea of giant creatures wandering around and fighting each other is insane. Reign of Fire, as you mentioned earlier, good example. I love that movie. If you're counting that as a kaiju movie, I have been introduced to kaiju movies quite a lot earlier than I realized. I've always enjoyed that movie.
We don't do a whole lot of dragon movies on here, but I decided to include that one because there's not too many. We're going chronologically through the history of these movies. We started with King Kong, and we are up to 2002. So we'll be getting to Final Wars, but there's not that many in the early 2000s, so we decided to go ahead and include those dragons. But
That's absolutely fair enough. I mean, it's a really cool idea you had, and I'd be, it made me want to do it. Do you know what I mean? It made me want to actually sit down and actually go through them one by one and watch them and think about it. And yeah, I watched several, but it's actually just been pointed out to me today that there was at least one that I'd never actually been aware of or heard of. And I've gone and forgotten what the name of it is. It's named after, it's Godzilla versus, and it's a giant plant. It's a giant plant kaiju. I've forgotten the name of it now. Oh, I'm so bad with names. It was Biollante.
that one can sometimes be hard to find. A lot of them are streaming right now, but Godzilla vs. Biollante sometimes is hard to find because of various rights issues.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's streaming right now because one of the services announced they were going to be having it, and then it didn't seem to be there.
Oh, did you have to miss it out on your chronological journey then?
No, I have a copy of it. I have a copy.
Good. Is it a good movie?
Yeah. Some people's favorite. They really like it, but it's kind of crazy because he's basically fighting a giant rose with the soul of a girl in it. No, definitely.
It sounds really, really weird. But like I said, I think kaiju movies in some ways are best when they're really, really weird. And it's hard to beat flying submarines with a drill on the front and laser cannons for weird.
If you can't find it officially, you may find it archived somewhere on the internet by some organization.
That would be highly convenient.
The Criterion Collection just released a digital version of that collection on Vudu and the other streaming services. You can get the whole thing.
All right.
That's all the Showa era movies for about $100. It's around $150 to $200 for the physical set, but it doesn't come with digital codes. So let's see. Your Kickstarter ends when?
2 weeks from today. Yeah, just about when we wrap up is just about when we're when the Kickstarter ends, but 2 weeks from now.
Yes, March 17th, 4 p.m. Central Time is when it wraps up. You're well over your goal, but there's all kinds of stretch goals to unlock if you get some more backers. So, of course, we will put a link in the show notes.
300 was really just enough to do that print run. And this might come as a shock, but I don't create role-playing games for the huge amounts of money that it gives me. Shockingly, it does not really make any money. It's not about money. It's about creating something that people can enjoy and bring to their tabletop. So that means that when I have success like this, I'm reinvesting it back into the game, or maybe the next game in some cases, but in this case, I'm trying to bring more material to you for this game so that you can enjoy it, you can have fun more than if I'd just made that base £300 goal. So yeah, already we've added 2 of my other games, which I think you could easily and interestingly combine with Era Kaiju. And we've also added a bestiary. We're just about really it's like 1 more backer or 2 more backers, and we'll be adding 4 more to our already 4 creature bestiary.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. I've mentioned this many times on the show, but you would not have heard it. Last year, I did a presentation at G-Fest on Kaiju and role-playing games, and I've submitted to do an update panel. There's been enough new things that have come out since then that I could do a whole presentation on new games that have come out since last year. So if they accept that panel submission, I will be including this game in that panel.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant.
So, and there's a video up on YouTube of last year's panel.
It's funny. A lot of people don't a lot of people don't know of any kaiju role-playing game if you ask them. But it's definitely the case that kaiju are more popular now, in general popular, than I think they've been in a long time. Godzilla -1.
Yeah. There's so much coming out.
Stuff going on, and yeah.
They're there. If once you start looking for them, you realize there's a lot more than you thought. But of course, compared to your typical elf game, there's still not nearly as many. But they are there, and you can find one with a rule set to fit your tastes. And they're all great, which is why I wanted to do that presentation on them, to let people know, people who are interested in both things, that it's out there. Well, is there anything, Ed, that you want to add before we wrap things up here today?
Just thank you, everyone, for sitting and listening to me for 20 boring minutes of Ed talking. I am so pleased to be invited on here. Really, just anyone who's looking around and going, oh, that looks interesting. To me, that's why I'm doing this, right? So, yeah, please come along, check out Era Kaiju if it sounds interesting to you. D10 dice pool system, that's what it's here for. And yeah, become a kaiju, stomp around, do your thing. Try not to stomp the humans, that's bad. But, yeah, no, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here, Ed. Ed's here all the way from the UK, so we had to do one of those weekend deals where neither of us would be asleep and up in the middle of the night to do this. So, as I said, we'll put a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes and up on the website. Please take a look at that game and consider backing it. Thanks again, Ed, for being here. Folks, I have been Precious D. Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements. Please don't misuse science. We will not see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Funtime Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Funtime Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texacato Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MMFTG.